My name's Aimee Schubert. I'm a nurse at Secours, and I'm here to serve and help other nurses serve in providing caring professional practice. The Nursing Excellence Fund to me means a modality and a way for nurses to fulfill their dream and purpose to provide good help to those in need, our mission and vision of Secours. Not only has this fund allowed me to go present at the Magnets Conference now twice because of this vision, it allowed me to go train with a nursing philosopher throughout all Secours, which her central tenet is so in line with their mission and vision and surrounded by caring. And it comes down to the caring moment with the patients. Everything else aside, when you're the patient, all you want to know is that your nurse cares. And your nurse is there for you. I'm just going to tell you a brief story about a patient that I had, and we'll call him Jimmy Joe Bob. He was actually about to be discharged. He was one of those gentlemen that had lived in the country and just not very sociable with other people, and you could just look in his eyes and see those beautiful blue eyes and see that he had such a story, but he didn't want to share with anyone. And the nurses gave me a report on him that morning and said, Aimee, we're giving him to you. He's going to be discharged today. He's refusing medication. He's not wanting us to help him. He just wants to go. He doesn't want anything. There's nothing we can say to get through to him. So I, of course, took it on and made it my purpose that day. I'm going to help Jimmy Joe Bob. And I took a breath, and I looked at his chart and reviewed and went in the room, and I tried every trick in the book to be with him that day, to help him in any way I could, to offer him anything I could, and to make sure he understood that refusing this medication, he needed medication to get fluid off of him to help his heart. And he still just wouldn't even speak to me. Finally, at the end of the day, I mentioned, well, Jimmy Joe Bob, I certainly hope that we've provided the care for you that you've needed from us, and we'll always be here for you. I'm going to go home now and walk my dogs. And I heard this, and that was the first peep I'd heard out of him all day. so picking up on that note, I'm like, so anyway, so my dog is really funny looking. He's a Basset Hound Baxter is his name, and he Basset Jack Russell mix. And he likes to go walk in, and, I just kept talking, and he said, oh, all right. And I said, so do you have any dogs? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what kind of dog do you have? He said, I have a beagle. And, this is the first time I'd heard this man's voice. And I said, well, who's taking care of your dog while you're here? And he looked away. And I looked back. I said, who's taking care of your dog while you're here? He said, well, remember that storm we had a couple nights ago? And it was one of those storms that lightning, I was actually at the hospital. You could see it streaking across the sky. And I'm sure my dogs were under the bed. I wanted to be under the bed. And I just said, oh, my gosh, yes, I was working that night. And he said, well, and his dog's name was Jack. He said, Jack got out the back door, and hadn't seen him since. So in that moment, I knew, oh my gosh, this man is refusing treatment because he wants to get home and look for his dog. So I said, Jimmy Joe, because that was his preferred name. And I went out and I said, may I speak to our case manager to see if we can find someone to help find Jack? And he looked at me like I don't think he was very social with his neighbors. And he said, whatever. So I went out there and I told my case manager, who was amazing, I said, we're going to be staying late. We're looking for Jimmy Joe's dog. And she got on that phone. She was amazing. She got in touch with his neighbors. They didn't really even know him, but they knew he had this dog that ran after his truck sometimes. And they said, well, sure, we'll go over there and look for the dog. Well, the dog was sitting at his back door. And I went back in and I said, Jimmy Joe, Jack is safe. Your neighbors are taking care of him. They're going to feed him. Would you please take treatment so you can stay with Jack longer and take better care of him? And he did. Long story short, he took his medication, he went home, he ended up developing, we stayed in touch, he developed relationships, he allowed his neighbors to bring him food occasionally, and he took his medication so he could stay around a little while longer. That's the difference one nurse, one day, one moment can make.